Perfect. So I want to
Yeah.
welcome everyone to Harbor Edition's first release reading. And we've just had a really wonderful journey so far. Small Harbor Publishing began a few years ago with our online magazine, Harbor Review, and we were just overwhelmed by the high quality of work that we received. And we knew we had to find a way to get more of that work out into the world. And so this summer, we officially became a nonprofit organization and began our imprint, Harbor Editions. I knew that the first books we published had to be by some of the amazing authors that we had met through the magazine, and I will forever be grateful that Sarah was willing to be our first experiment. And she has just been fantastic to work with and so understanding of all of our bumps and growing pains that came along with being our first author. Before I introduce Sarah, I want to say thank you to my spouse, who's sort of been the therapist for the organization and the social media manager, and currently works as the business manager, and pretty much does everything that we need to make this whole thing work. And I want to thank Luke Blevins for his beautiful art and design on We's cover. I also want to thank Greg and Cameron and all of the senior editors and staff who volunteer their time. We are a small independent feminist press, and we have an all volunteer staff. So you should know that when you purchase a book or make a donation, pretty much every dollar goes back to our authors and our artists. So Sarah Freligh is the author of Sad Math, winner of the 2014 Moon City Press Poetry Prize, and the books A Brief Natural History of an American Girl and Sword of God. Among her awards are a 2009 Poetry Fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts. I am so honored to have published her most recent book. We is a beautiful mixture of poetry and lyric microfiction. The work is sexy and sad, and I knew I had to publish this book because I too am one of those girls, like Olga, like the good girls, like the hoodie girl, like the girls who dive, and we all are. The characters and we resonate. They pull you in and whisper, yes. And I promise you can't read this book just one time. So I am thrilled to introduce Sarah Freligh.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. This is very odd. This is the first reading I've done when my cats are in the same room. So I talked to them a little earlier about reading etiquette. So hopefully they'll be on their best behavior, but I can't promise anything. But anyways, thank you so much to Allison, to Hannah, to Luke, to everybody at Harbor Editions. How wonderful you've been. This book arrived on Wednesday, which, something else was going on in the world, but, this was equally great. So anyways, I'm going to read the first poem in the book first, and I will read the last poem in the book last, but in between, I'm going to kind of mix it up a little bit. So anyways, the first poem is Ann Arbor, 1974. Sky bruising purple when I stuck out my thumb and caught a fast ride west in a spoke-wheeled Cadillac with three geezers who passed a silver flask of scotch, honeyed with age, and even I sang along with Sinatra on the car stereo, soprano blanketing their reedy tenors, all the way to South Bend, where the driver handed me a Hershey bar and a wad of ones. I played pinball for hours at the Greyhound station, high on horsepower and whiskey, an eternity before the bus chuffed in. How is it that time is slow and heavy as an elephant when you're young and impatient to get to the next second? Now the merry-go-round of years, a heartbeat between Christmases. It's like you can go out a girl who can honky tonk all night and come home old, smelling of spiced apples and cat, fat with memories coating your bones. Um, this next one is really, it's kind of a prose poem, micro fiction. I was looking back at my 2020 daytimer that I write in daily. And this was like the first thing I wrote during the lockdown. And at the time I thought I was going to be on a week-long kind of writing retreat, and during which I would write instead of go to Florida. And the week-long writing retreat has turned into 11 months, but be that as it may, here we are. It's about traveling, which is something we couldn't do. So anyways, away. We spent our last $3 on a tall boy that we passed back and forth through most of Iowa. 24 hours we've been driving away from the city and the sirens and the stink of the streets. Truckers honked around us, past us. We waved to the cute ones, hiked our skirts higher on our pale thighs. We were down to warm suds when the needle scraped E and we pulled into a mom and pop station at the next exit. We sat on the curb out front and discussed what we were willing to do for a gallon or two. Steal, sell ourselves, and laughed until our pants were damp. The owner called us sweethearts and gave us coffee and a couple of stale donuts before he shut off the lights and headed home. I'd never seen so many stars. Sitting there like that, I was sure I could feel the earth turn, but you said no. It was only the grumble of trucks on the interstate. Still, it was nice to think we were moving forward, away from ourselves, even while we were stuck. Goddesses. The year I dropped out of college, I didn't know what I wanted from life, and declaring a major seemed too much like a groove I'd fit my wheels in and travel on until I was 65, happy or not. But I was tired of being broke, tired of smoke and endless ass pats from drunks at the bar where I schlepped pitchers of cold bud and tequila shots for dime tips. At Playgirl Figure Salon, I catered to women who wouldn't touch me, despite the fact that I looked pretty good in the black and white leotard V'ing to cleavage, the stretchy fabric that reined in the beer gut I'd grown. I was eager to breathe fresh air, to lead a class in jumping jacks and torso twists designed to slim the midriff, show ladies how to properly heft a 5-pound barbell that would rid their triceps of the fat they hid in sleeved shirts. But no, my job was to con them into signing up by sharing photos of women none of us knew, before and after shots, claim we'd made them this way, like goddesses waving our skinny wands. I sold a 6-month membership to a woman with shadowed eyes who smelled of cigarettes and beer at 9 a.m. Her hand shook. I want my husband not to recognize me, she said. I called in sick the next day and the day after, claiming my mother's cancer had metastasized and I was needed at home. I lied. My mother died years later of cancer, almost as if I'd predicted it, made it so. But no, you can go crazy that way, believing you are goddess enough to make shit happen. One of the jobs I had along with working at Playgirl Figure Salon was waitressing. And in retrospect, probably not at the time, but in retrospect, waitressing was a pretty good gig. You went in for a few hours. It was a very collegial atmosphere. Even if you hated the people you worked with, you all worked together to set things up and break things down. When you went in, it was nice. It turned into chaos, and then you made it all nice again, and you went home. You could go in broke and walk out with a lot of money. So it was a pretty good gig, actually. So anyways, this is Light Years, a waitress poem. Tonight, the moon's an orange wedge, frazzle-edged leftover stuck to a gray bowl of twilight sky. Orange like the bartender used to slice in the slow hour before 5 o'clock rush, tossed into the garnish trough for us waitresses to thread onto swizzle sticks at balance across the lip of a drink, a Collins or a whiskey sour, Lady drinks, I thought of them, drunk by women with diamonds the size of gumballs, weighing heavy on ring fingers. The husband ordered, always. She'll have, he'd say, and leer at me, his co-conspirator, while she stared out at the putting green where college guys, adorable in shorts, competed for beer. An orange slice or two was all I ate some nights. I stuffed down my hunger with water and a quick cigarette out back on the freight dock where dishwashers passed a joint and named the constellations for me. The Big Dipper, Orion and his flashy Elvis belt of stars, Cassiopeia, wife of Cepheus, sentenced to life in the sky for boasting that she was more beautiful than the sea nymphs, comely and younger. At night's end, I unfurled white linens, fresh from plastic bags, set my table with silver still hot to the touch. Only then could I punch out, spill into the night, when headlong toward the next minute when something or anything could happen. The earth was turning, tilting, fat on its axis, and I ached for a kingdom to be queen of. A kind of magic. I was interested in writing a first person story that really wasn't a first person story, that we lost the first person pretty quickly after the beginning of it. So this is what came out, a kind of magic. He tells me that his mother carries a lock of his dead father's hair coiled inside the folded bills of her wallet. How she'll forget about it altogether and have to pluck it, embarrassed, from the spill of dimes and nickels on the checkout counter at the grocery store. Sometimes she'll tell the startled cashier that it's her hair from when she was a natural blonde, when her hair hung thick and straight to the ass of her tie-dyed miniskirt, when she went by the name of Star Astor and danced naked in the rain at Woodstock, way before she was somebody's mother or the widow of a man who left her with nothing but a shoebox full of unpaid bills and 3 photographs from their honeymoon in Vegas, their faces smudged gray with fatigue after a night at the craps table where they wagered everything but their round-trip Greyhound tickets from Ann Arbor. Back when his blonde hair hid his eyes, curtained his face as he kissed the dice. Back when she would bet anything was possible, when she still believed love was a kind of magic. The next piece is called Epidemic. I wrote it also during the pandemic, probably I think in around May. And when I started sending it out, I got some, I heard from the magazine that eventually accepted it, Fractured Lit, a great new magazine. Not everything was bad in 2020. Fractured Lit was born. But they said, we looked at the title of this, Epidemic, and it's like, are you kidding me? Are you really going to send this to us? So I said, yeah, I'm going to keep the title, Epidemic. Because Davy Gray is protected by the blood of Jesus and his scripture spouting pastor daddy, he stays in the classroom practicing his times tables while the rest of the class waits outside the gymnasium, sleeves rolled, for the stern-faced nurses to swab and stab us with the biggest needles in the history of the world, according to Marky Wolf, who will faint at the very sight of it, or Judd French, who Darlene Meadows will tell us cried like a little baby, though he looked just fine by the time we break into groups of 3 and argue over what color to make the map of the Dakotas, green or blue, I say, though Judd insists on brown because of the Badlands, while Davy just sits there coloring and quiet. Because we are inoculated, none of us will get the mumps that year or the next, though Davy Gray will spend a month in the hospital in 8th grade and come back to us a shadow, skinny as a scarecrow and sterile, according to Darlene, who claims she overheard her nurse mother say the sickness settled in his balls and turned him sterile as a mule, which is how the joke got started. How is a Stardust pistol like Davy Gray answer? Both of them shoot blanks, something we will ha-ha over until the day Davy shows up at school with his father's gun and his black backpack and shoots his way through the cafeteria before the cops show up and lead him away, but not before he kills 6 people, Judd and some other jocks and a lunch lady. And for weeks, the school will be lit up with television cameras and microphones tethered to women with gloss on faces who talk about never forgetting what happened here. But there will be a mall the next week, and after that, a synagogue and a movie theater and a mall again until we lose track. An epidemic of violence, say the gloss on faces, before tossing to the weather guy for tomorrow's forecast, more rain on the way. And sometimes I think about hunting down Davy Gray, but I never do. Though what I did do once was drive through North Dakota, where I took a cell phone shot at sunset of the Badlands, which weren't bad at all. In fact, they were kind of lovely in their shadowed dark. Last Christmas, we talked often about what to give someone who was dying. Nothing, everything, a little something. My sister and I went to Walmart on a Sunday in December. It was crowded, spit-polished people wearing church clothes, frat guys in pajama pants swigging Red Bulls. Everyone wandering aimless through the aisles, faces bathed sick by yellow fluorescence. Speakers bleated out Christmas music, interrupted by announcements for lost kids. When we got lost in electronics in the middle of a football game, a dozen running backs came for us. We found a set of dishes, white and light and dishwashable, something Dad could handle. A mom smacked her kid for yanking down a stack of blankets. The air smelled of something sweet and on fire. Outside, a man shook a bell over a red kettle. The snow had picked up, filling in footprints. We had to blaze our own trail. Letter to a friend in May. Late April, when the snow finally melted, not in a flood, but a gradual retreat, a letting go, revealing the hurt earth underneath, the mud and the hostas, fragile shoots for now. Finally, warm enough today to transplant the seedlings, nasturtiums and zinnias, give them a taste of what life will be like outside. Hands in the dirt, a thought of your brother and mine, and how in the midst of all these beginnings, someone somewhere is always ending. The cycle of life, mesh of gears and speed, grinding on. I know time heals what wounds us, but try to tell me in January that winter will end, that under a foot of snow, a seed can grow. Thank you so much for being here. This is my last poem, last piece, and I just really appreciate everybody who's written, shared a cover of We that they bought, and thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you. This is what we remember. The holy roller girl who writhed with the fever of Jesus on Sunday while her pastor daddy twirled snakes like lariats over the heads of sinners crying to be cleansed, who bust in from out county on Monday undressed for gym in a mop closet, who stuffed a transistor radio down her pants while her pastor daddy handed out salvation in front of Sears, who believed she descended to heaven whenever Diana Ross sang in her ears, all gauze and sequins, whenever Smokey baby babied her down rows of corn, where she danced with her tall green partners. The nights her father came to sanctify her, the day she collapsed in gym class and sang to Jesus in her gospel tongue, an arpeggio of gibberish, all amen and hell yes. How she came back to us, a ghost girl, rinsed of all but the high, hard notes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reading, and thank you everyone for coming. And I just want to say that we have another book coming out in February, so please look out for that. Bright News of Gladiolas by July Westhale, and make sure to follow us on social media for updates. Thank you so much.